Like, what are some signs that people can experience to let them know that their divine feminine is awakening?
I would say when you start
Like, I'm not enough of this, I'm not enough of that. I'm not doing enough. I am not enough. How do people transition, especially women, how do people transition out of that energy?
That's a really good question. And I see there are different approaches, and it's whatever resonates with you. One of my approaches is,
what is the divine feminine to you, Matilda?
So what I see the divine feminine, we can be...
First thing people talk about when it comes to abundance is, the divine feminine. I think you work with Aphrodite a lot too.
Yeah, I do.
Can you talk a little bit about that feminine energy?
So when we open up to our feminine energy, we start to embody something different.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Transformation to Expansion. I'm your host, Lajoie Bradley, and today we have a very special guest bringing us divine feminine energy, okay? This is for my women and men too, because y'all gonna have to go through this at some point, but this is really for both of y'all to really dive deeper into your divine feminine. So today we have a very special guest. Her name is Matilda Lerche. I have to work on my accent. I'm gonna work on my Danish accent.
Perfect.
We don't get this next. But if you read it, my Americans, y'all might say Lerche. But it has a Danish. Can you pronounce it for us real quick, Matilda?
Yes, it's Lerche. And Lerche is perfect. I would pronounce it that way in English too. And more love can sometimes be found through contraction and density. And then on the other side of that, was there more love? Yes, there was.
I love it. Thank you. But yeah, I love just accents. I love it. She's a healer and energy intuitive, and she uses her higher wisdom life coaching to assist her clients in awakening their full potential. And we're going to talk about what that is later in the show. Using this coaching method, Matilda accesses the client's higher wisdom consciousness and translates words and energy to help awaken her clients to their own wisdom and spark great transformation. We know we're all about transformation here. Matilda has a background in natural sciences with a Ph.D. in biology, which supports her holistic approach to spirituality and energy methodologies. Please welcome Matilda onto the show. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Lajoie. I'm so happy to be here. It's such an honor and such a gift. And I can't wait to see what we will dive into today.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I know we talked a little bit before the show just about your background in biology too, because as some of y'all know, I also have a background in biology. Not a PhD now, but I have my little bachelor's. But it was so cool to connect with you and to hear about the alignments and the epiphanies that we both had, within those studies. And I'm just really excited to hear about how you integrate that too into your practice. I can assume of some ways, right? Because I feel like nature is like the source of abundance. I always tell people that, especially people who don't really understand what abundance is. I'm like, just look out in nature. Like, there's so much abundance. And if you don't understand, go to a jungle, okay? If you can count how many plants, are in front of you, then I would be very surprised. But I'm sure even if you were to count all of them, you'd probably miss a few, okay? But it's really the source of abundance. And, the first thing that people talk about when it comes to abundance is, the divine feminine. I think you work with Aphrodite a lot too.
Yeah, I do.
Can
Yes.
you talk a little bit about that feminine energy?
Yes, and I love also that you brought up the biology, because I came from a world that that the science world is very in the masculine energies. It's very about structure, about systems, about order, understanding that very linear structure, while nature really is also greatly feminine. So how I perceive feminine energy is it's the flow, you can say it's the gentleness, it's the pleasure, it's the movement. So it has a very different texture in a way. It's soft and it's intuition, and it's not in boxes or in linear structure. So when we open up to our feminine energy, we start to embody something different compared to when we are purely in the masculine energy. So I would love to go more into that, but let me hear, is there any other questions in relation to that, or where do you want me to bring this?
Oh, wherever you feel. Girl, we going with that feeling.
Okay.
Go ahead. You good.
Yeah, so with Aphrodite, she has you can say she's carrying one goddess aspect. She has been an embodied feminine being. How I work a lot with the goddesses. How I see them is that they were humans. They were incarnated on earth, and they dedicated themselves to living their highest experience. So they were like avatar beings. They were coming in as normal humans like you and I, and then they chose to have the great journey. Let me take the goddess journey. Let me become known. Let it become known to myself that I'm a divine being and I can create worlds. So they integrated that highest aspect of themselves. And when we, for example, see Aphrodite, she has one aspect. She has like the love, the nurture. She has an ability to really bring out the falling in love energy, falling in love with yourself, falling in love with the world, falling in love with your life. And you can open that aspect within yourself and really use that as a guiding tool for yourself to open more to your own goddess self. So I see it. It's a really beautiful journey, and for me, it started, I think, 5 years ago that I really started to open up to the goddesses and realized I had a contract, you can say, with them, and also with myself. Like I had agreed to study the feminine energies, and I did that by first really diving into the masculine energies and see what that was all about, and seeing how that did not work well for my body or generate any well-being in my body. I was having a lot of physical issues while I was in science, and it was an awakening while I was doing my PhD that was really bringing me on to a different track.
You've gone to the retreats, sat in ceremonies, even worked with healers, and now you've been told that it's your turn to do the work. Well, this is that next step. I'm so excited to share with y'all that this year we have our first Transformation to Expansion event on September 9th, 2025, where we will be in ceremony together, releasing all the things that are blocking us from truly transforming into the new version of ourselves. So you can really go into 2026 as the new you and stop holding back. This is going to be a really powerful activation, y'all. I really don't want y'all to miss it. If you're one of the first 15 people to sign up, your ticket is completely free. So make sure to check the link in the description below for the link to the ticket for this event. I cannot wait to see y'all there. I love y'all so much. Can you talk about that real quick? Because I know a lot of women, especially career women, whether it's going the academic way, whether it's going to corporate or being your own business owner. I think a lot of women have that, where they come into this space or this time or this moment or this point where the way that they've been operating in the masculine just, I think usually the first thing that happens when we get to like not a breaking point or right before the breaking point is our bodies start to I call them like throwing tantrums at us, right? But can you just talk about that process real quick,
Yes.
about
Yeah.
what was it like experiencing that? What was that journey of that awakening of realizing, hey, this isn't working anymore?
Yeah, and I can see, yeah, thank you for that question. I can see how that for me personally was desensitizing myself. And I think that's for a lot of women and a lot of humans. Also the new men, the one that are more softer in their substance. They're like, we come in and we have a lot of emotions and we realize, oh, it's not welcome here. Or I cannot go on this path if I have emotions. You just shut them down, but they're also meant to guide us. So when we shut them down, we have nothing to guide us. We just have this numb body or painful body or this aching body that's just, as you say, throwing tantrums. And really they can do nothing else because they are responding to energy. And if our energy that we emit and what we think about ourselves is like, it can sometimes even be self-hatred, right? Why are you not able to do this? Everyone else can do this. Why are you not, why can't you just be normal or be able to work these number of hours every week? And it's like, because I'm not created for that. I'm created for the feminine energy and the flow and the softness. And I can create worlds. I can create magic if I'm allowed to run that energy. So for me, it crashed totally because I knew later I realized it was because I'm here, you can say, my own study. We are, right? We are coming in and we have a lot of wisdom and we want to bring it through our beautiful bodies. So, I mean, I had so many health issues. I completely, so much tension in my back and my neck, constantly pain, my digestion, everything. And then when I had that car crash while we were doing field work, it was 6 months of going down the drain, clinging on to my work. I thought if I lost that, I would lose my whole life. And but then when my own energy suddenly kicked in after those 6 months, it was like complete recovery, but also a complete rewiring of my inner self. It was what I think you will call a miraculous recovery at that point, and that just opened up a completely different world. I still continued in science until I was done with my PhD, but it had opened up a completely different path for me.
Wait, so what was that experience like? Because you said the miraculous recovery. Like, can you just take us through that? Like, what was that journey like?
It was wild. I didn't know it was possible. So after those 6 months, just clinging on to that work, every time I was just okay for a little bit, I would sit in front of the computer, but I could hardly sit down because of my pain. And the little I could sit down, I tried to work that time. Like, I don't know if anyone can relate to that. Now it's just like, why are we doing this? It's like we put so much importance in the work, not realizing that our body, ourself is like what we need to maintain in order to even have relationships. And that was what I realized at that point. I cannot even be or see other people if my body is not functioning. Why would I put my energy into work? So I was seeing this therapist who was helping guiding me into my body. And then after one of the sessions, my body started to move. So first it was my neck that started to move. And I was like, what is that? And he said, this is called Kriya, or myofascial unwinding. It's the body's own ability to release tension from the muscles and like rewire itself. And I was like, okay. And I thought it would stop. And it did for a little while. And then the next day it started again. And then in 2 weeks, it went through all the body, everything, every little trauma I had in my digestion, my eyes, my back, everything. My body just moved and I could not stop it. I could not hold it back with my, like, how I used to control my body was like it had been taken over by a new system, a system that knew more about me than I did, the old part of me. So it was like a part of me that was so much wiser, that knew exactly how I could realign my own body to its perfect health. So in 2 weeks, my body just moved. And after that, I was not the same again. It had also rewired my inner trauma. I was in complete peace. I was able to do amazing yoga poses that came because it continued the month after. It was like 8 hours a day where my body was in movement, and I could do headstands and all those things, like yogi movements coming from within, not any part of my, like the old part of my mind thinking I want to do that. It was just my body just did it. And it was like, okay, I did not know that was possible, but I learned that it was. So, and I had not, not seen that as my way of recovery. That was quite wild. It called Somatic experience. Is it Peter Levin who is the founder of that? It was someone who was. I went to him because he was a craniosacral therapist, but he never got to touch my body or anything because it was so traumatized. So what he got to was to guide me into my body and feel the sensations, and that was what I needed to for my own body to start releasing and putting everything into place by itself.
That's interesting. So I like it's like crazy. Sorry, I say it's crazy because I just got introduced in the past 6-7 months into cranial sacral therapy. Never heard of it before. And then yeah, it's all of a sudden I met one person who did it, and then I like relocated, met another person who did that. And it just keeps on popping up. And I know like personally also I think I'm being called to be more in my body. Like I said, I think a lot of women, especially this year in 2025, we are being called to be more in our bodies, to be more in touch with our feeling of our bodies, in many different ways. And so it's really important to share these techniques to everybody. But it's just, for me, it's curious that you also do craniosacral therapy. There's so many different, avenues of doing. But again, it's to really get back in touch with our bodies. Earlier, before we started recording, we talked about the goddess journey. How is movement part of that goddess journey?
So yeah, thank you for that question. That is it. I would say it's important, and it's not the key component. Embodiment is, and
Okay.
movement is the consequence of that embodiment, I would say. And I completely agree. I see that the embodiment is so incredibly important, and yes, from now and in the future. And what I don't think we might realize is how much wisdom the body has, and that it can work at different levels, layers of reality. So the more we allow it to integrate that higher consciousness, the more superpowers it can access. And and it will work differently. So we might think this is not possible for the body, or the body, so things like aging, but from a place of not resisting aging, when we allow, instead of of trying to achieve a goal, but when we allow, then we will automatically experience some of those things where we would say that is impossible. You can also see like the masters in the East, that have lived recently, and some of them still living, can create miracles. They can create miracles and miracles with their bodies, and we think that that's not possible. But in the moment we start really feeling within the body that it is possible, that these bodies, they have really superpowers, then we will see it. And then I believe, yes, our movement will naturally come from within. And also, as you say, there are so many ways to access these powers, whatever resonate with each one of us. I believe we all have great plans before coming here about how we want to go about it. And some are specialized in one thing, and some are specialized in something else. And then,
I mean, people call it divine timing, right? But, when we look back at, when we were kids, when we were teenagers, when we were in college, right? It's like sometimes none of that matches to like the work we're doing now, or like, when we have that epiphany, oh, right, that was what I was trying to do. And it's interesting too, because I feel like sometimes, when we're kids, we do have these moments where we're tapped in, where we have that, but then we ignore it, or society teaches us to ignore it or put it to the side. Um, but as we get older and as we get more connected with ourselves, especially as women, or especially as men who are getting more tapped into their divine aspects or divine feminine aspects, we realize that it's all part of the journey, it's all part of the experience. And so when you say, like, you talk about the goddess journey a lot, it also makes me think about the divine feminine. So how do we tap into the divine feminine? Or actually, first of all, what is the divine feminine to you, Matilda?
yeah, and I also want to go back to the goddess journey. What I see, the divine feminine, we both have masculine and feminine energies, and and the masculine is the structure, as I also mentioned before. It's the service, being at service, taking action, and the feminine is love, nurture, the softness, the flow, the intuition. And in each and every body, we hold those two energies. How much of each we want to flow differs, depends on the person. So many of us who are here as feminine, physical feminine beings, and I see it being different for the younger generation. So that's also why I don't say anything that this is just how it is like we are in a part of an evolution, right? So but we are many who came here to balance those energies and become an embodied feminine being. So the divine feminine in an embodied form would be a woman or a man running mainly like more of the feminine energies, but also having the masculine component, because otherwise we would not be able to take action. We would not have the service component or be able to provide structure for ourselves. And we really need that in order to both sustain our own life, but also have it mirrored back. If we don't have that within ourselves, a healthy masculine, we do not have it mirrored back from the outside. It's difficult for people to come in and provide that for us. If we, for example, have a lot of feminine energy, and that's just beautiful, but we did not take the time to go in and balance our masculine, it's difficult to have that. If we have it really balanced, people will automatically suggest, how about I provide the structure for you? How about I create this foundation for you. And that feels really good. And back to what you said about the school and the goddess journey, I would actually say that, yeah, that is the goddess journey. Like coming in, deciding to immerse yourself in the density and try it all out, try it out and see, how do I find my way through this? And from there, assist others to find their way through it. It's like we are creating keys to unlock different experience or codes to move through the experience. We could not just, we're not just sitting on our throne and say, I think you should do this and that, because then we would have no idea exactly how it works. Now we can provide it through the energy, if that makes sense.
But what does that look like? So give us an example of, like, instead of sitting from your throne, you do this, you do this, you do this. What does it look like when you really are truly integrated into that feminine, the divine feminine energy?
So, have you ever felt like you're meant for more? You're here for a reason. Something inside of you knows that there's more. There's more purpose, there's more connection, there's more fulfillment, there's more love to be enjoyed in this life. What if all of that was here right now? Your life easier to navigate, your dreams easier to manifest. You can live in a life of ease, even in these uncertain times with Pluto being in Aquarius. Your community of expansion is right here at your fingertips. From the moment you enter, you feel the sense of release and comfort. No more wondering if all those downloads you got as a kid were just random thoughts. No more wondering that time you had telepathy, thinking that it was just a fluke. Be with the people you know are here for you. Join our ever-expanding community on Patreon for free. And for those of you who ask, yes, the Wellness Library is included. I love y'all so much. Let's get back to the show. Peace.
It is also for the masculine. It's for everyone that when we come as teachers, we will share something from our own energy experience. So what I will say is, you might have an experience where you have where you lose all your money or whatever it is, and then move through that experience of the lack, and then you move in through the experience of finding your own worthiness in any and all situation. You do not need money to be worthy. You do not need money to be a goddess, a queen. And then you realize you are your abundance and you have all abundance in the world. And then you will see that money start returning. And that is a key you will share. That's an example. And I think many have, like, divorces, loss, all sorts of trauma, where it's like they make like the full circle. They come in, experience the complete crash, then they come back and realize, oh, but the experience does not me. I am inherently worthy. And with that energy, they can create their life anew. And with that energy, they can teach others, because we identify ourselves with the experience we have. Like, oh, I was just fired from my job. I'm completely unworthy. It's awful. I'm worthless. But as long as it is like that, we feel like that, we will continue to receive those experiences until we learn that, no, you are worthy. You don't need anything like that in order to make you feel worthy. And your path here on earth is so much greater than that. It's just an experience.
I think usually it's that. It's like, I'm not enough of this, I'm not enough of that. I'm not doing enough. I am not enough. How do people transition, especially women, how do people transition out of that energy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I see there are different approaches, and it's whatever resonate with you. One of my approaches is, imagine you're a goddess and you chose to come to earth to experience density. That's it. And it can be your truth. And why would it not be your truth? And a goddess is, of course, always worthy. There's nothing she can experience. She want to try these things on. So I would say what happens is you shift into an empowered perspective, instead of see yourself as victim of circumstances or just a little being. You are the creator of your own experience. You create your own perspective. And when you have mastered that, there is really a different energy flow coming from you, and you can start creating something new. So I know it's challenging because I've been walking the path myself, and I have been at times where I have been in the complete darkness of unawakened state and had major traumas there, and seeing how deeply that affected me at that point. And then I've had traumatic experience quote unquote traumatic experience while I was awake, and that felt so different. And then I've had a traumatic experience while I was awake and knowing that was creating my own experience, and that again was so different. So feeling those differences in what you're knowing about yourself, what wisdom you are allowing yourself to feel aligned with. And one thing I learned is that we learn perspectives. We learn to judge ourselves with perspectives like that is a failure. And then you just take it on. If you just came into this experience and had no idea what was failure or success, you wouldn't be sad about many of the things because it was just like, yeah, whatever. That's just another experience, right? We have learned to judge some things about ourselves. For example, if we are very much in the feminine energy, then we're like unreliable or chaotic or can't, you're not the same every day because the feminine is not a wave. She's not the same every day. So there can be a lot of judgment around that.
Okay. I love that the feminine, she's not the same every day. I mean, it's so true, right? If we have ups and downs every day, even as you go up, a energy level or a higher vibration, um, it's like when I talk to monks in Thailand, the thoughts, they never stop. Like, it's like, they just have a different relationship to them. That's it. That's the only difference. Like, and a different relationship to their feelings too. Um, but people don't realize that, like, it's really about like how you respond to things that I think really makes people in that high, like, divine feminine state, if you want to put it like that. um and you talked about like this journey. It's a journey of becoming the divine feminine. Like, what are some signs that people can experience to let them know that their divine feminine is awakening?
I would say when you start to not thrive in a very structured job, that's a sign that she's really calling you. And I will also say, because when we're just beginning to awakening to the feminine, we will start to feel on a line with the places where there's a lot of, and it's also dense masculine energy, because if they're honoring the divine feminine, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place for a divine feminine to be. But if you're in the old structures, you will often feel exhausted. You feel like there's a heavy weight on your shoulders. And in that case, if you do not feel honored, notice, are you honoring your own feminine? Are you saying, wow, I love my own intuition. I listen and I love it and I just honor it, because often that would be the cases where we're like, no, I try to push it down, hide it away. And then it's like, okay, so that is where you then start. You start within yourself, starting to honor in your own intuition, starting to honor your own need to go and move in cycles and waves and not be the same every day. Start to honor that and see it as a good thing, instead of seeing it as something like, oh, I should be able to work 9 to 5 because that's what humans are supposed to do. Like, start honoring what your body is telling you, what your own energy levels are. And we can be really afraid because we think that we're throwing ourselves into this empty space where nothing is holding us, right? What if I really start to listen to my body when it's telling me it's tired? Will I then just keep on sleeping? Like, will I just sleep all the time? I think many are worried, like, if they really give in to that softer energy, what will happen? Will they lose all structure or their foundation?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we need to know that we just move so far away from it that we need time to come back to it. So that's where I see many are having accidents or depressions or things that make them slow down, really slow down, and get that space to return to their own self.
Definitely relate to this because I've been called many times. I think everybody can relate to this, right? We've all been called, whether it's from our bodies, whether it's from the healer that we saw or the friend that we talked to. There's been many times where we've been called to slow down. There's been many times when we were called to listen to our bodies. But there's this thing that happens sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, we do give in, we listen to our bodies, but then we don't get certain results. you know? So can you just talk about that real quick? Or, and even if, I'm sure you've had moments like this, right? Where you did give in and you didn't get the results. Like, how would what would you say to those people, and how would you like navigate that? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and so where we can feel this mistrust, right? So I would say there are different ways this can happen. I remember before my awakening, leading up to the thing about I thought my body should get better. I mean, I've been resting for an hour now. Shouldn't it be better now? And when I had my awakening, I realized, wow, I've been driving my body completely into like a wreck, and I think it should be able to recover in 5 minutes. It's like you have 5 minutes, recover now. It's like, no, that's not how it works. I mean, I've been running it like that for many, many years. So of course it needs a long time to come back. And I will say with the other thing, are you also talking about intuition? Like if our intuition tells us to go in different direction or in a specific direction, and then we don't see what we thought we were supposed to see? And that's the divine feminine. Like they don't trust it, but that's because we think like, oh, my. I think we talked a little bit about it before we started this conversation. Also, the thing about now it should all be great. I'm following my heart, right? But it's really leading you to more love, and more love can be sometimes be found through contraction and density. And then on the other side of that, was there more love? Yes, there was. And that was like, that's a success. It was not that you went in the wrong direction when you followed your intuition. It was just that the goal was different than you thought. You thought it might be success. I've been there many times, like thinking they should lead me there. That's successful, but that's the perception of the mind, right? What success is. And my guides always say, it's leading you to more love. And I've been blessed with a connection with my soul, so I can hear it in those really difficult moments. And that's the time when it's most excited. It's like, I created this. This is so good. Now listen, I pay attention. And it's like, it's overly, it's just ecstatic sometimes at these times where I'm just like, oh my God, this is like a disaster seen from the human perspective. My soul is super excited. So I think that's quite funny when we start to feel it that way, because you can also then use your soul connection to actually fuel you through those experiences where you would otherwise start judging yourself.
That's it for part one. I will see you next week in part two. Peace.